Hello Leeds, the world, the universe. This week's guest on the Light on Leeds podcast is Sara Merritt. She works for Leeds Museums and Galleries as the Audience Development Officer, and her colleague Meg run the podcast Museums and That. She's really great to talk to, and I had a lovely conversation with her, and I think you'll enjoy it. On this week's episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Sara Merritt, who has remotely connected to speak to me. Hello, Sara.
Hi.
Thank you very much for remotely coming along.
Thank you ever so much for having me.
No problem. Sara, you work for Leeds Museums and Galleries, and you are an Audience Development Officer. Can you tell me a little bit about what your role is?
Yeah, it's kind of a fancy term for what is marketing and PR for Leeds Museums and Galleries. So I look after 5 of our 9 sites. So off the top of my head, Leeds City Museum, Abbey House Museum, Kirkstall Abbey, Lotherton, Leeds Discovery Centre. We split the last one with my colleague, and we have 9 in total. So I look after anything that is from sort of brand and how we're viewed out to the public, to standard marketing and PR, our website, our digital, our social. We also have a podcast which we launched last year, and kind of anything in between. I'm currently doing a load of design work. I'm not a designer, but here we are. So local authority museums. We're it's really challenging. So it's good. It's a good thing because there's loads going on all the time.
And what is your podcast called?
It's called Museums and That, which I always feel funny saying because it makes me feel really old when I say it. I'm like, I feel like the kids would say it a lot cooler than me, but yeah, never mind.
And how is that going? What sort of thing do you talk about? Sort of items that you like? How does it work?
It's going really well. We actually just hit 10,000 downloads the other day, which blew our tiny little minds. Because so it's myself and my colleague Meg who handles all of our digital. She is like the face / voice / writer behind our LMG main social media channels, and you'll have seen her on Twitter and things like that. But it was kind of to try and grow that audience that were maybe falling between the cracks a little bit, especially for museums. We're super enthusiastic about it, but it's still got this reputation as being kind of a bit old and a bit stuffy and maybe not as accessible as we know it can be. So it was trying to break down those barriers a little bit. And the episodes, it's 6 per series, and then we might do a little bonus depending if anything fun comes up. And it's that we get a visitor on that's either someone from our own service or someone external, and we ask them lots of little questions that might be not very traditional. So like, does Bruce Springsteen have an archive? I don't know how we even get onto that, but we did. And then we talk about other more museumy things like taxidermy and archaeology and some more serious topics. But it's always a bit tongue in cheek, and it's really about trying to get people interested in things that they might not have thought of before, and showing off how varied, especially Leeds is for culture and arts. So it's been really, really exciting, and it's just so lovely. I'm sure you'll agree. Having a podcast and receiving nice feedback gives you this little bit of a boost, and it's just a real joy to be able to do something and enjoy it.
Oh, brilliant. So you really enjoy actually doing the podcast?
Yeah, it's actually really weird for me to be on this side of the microphone. I'm really nervous about it because I'm usually the one asking all the questions or going, oh, can I stop you there? Can I just interrogate that? And me going, oh. So no, this is, it's actually a real honour to be on yours because I've listened back to some of the episodes, and this, just the variety of people is just incredible. So it's lovely to be another Leeds podcaster.
Well, thank you very much for your feedback. That's fantastic. And so can I just ask, Sara, how did you get involved in this sort of role? Is it something that you've always been sort of working towards, or did you sort of fall into it?
Yeah, not really. It's weird. So I came up to Leeds for university. I'm from Nottingham originally, and Leeds kind of felt like the right fit for me. It was not too big, not too small, not too far away, but not close enough, all of those things. And I did English literature because I really liked reading. I mean, it's a very expensive way of leaving home when you know how to read already, but it worked out fine. So I when I left, I did loads of different jobs. I worked worked in finance, and I worked for an opticians, and I worked with like Asda doing advertising and things. And the more I did it, the more I was like, I'm kind of getting into this marketing trajectory, but I don't know that corporate's really what I want to do, and I'd never really thought about it before. I'd just always known that, you know, I enjoyed museums and I enjoyed the arts and stuff, and I never thought that it was something where a job existed. And I kind of found it by chance. So I was originally working for a small agency in Leeds and working with a split of sort of attractions and tourism, and then sort of more corporate accounts and hospitality. And I really enjoyed the attractions and the tourism side. I just knew that, you know, the stuff that I'd been learning about like marketing and PR fit really well when I was really enthusiastic about something. And I saw this role on Twitter, and I wasn't kind of actively looking for anything, and I thought, oh well, I'll just go for it. There'll be loads of people that are already in the industry. I know it's really highly contested. Fine, I'll just go and I'll be external and I'll be that anomaly. And it worked out. So I did kind of fall into it. I suppose I didn't really think about it because it's one of those things where you think about museums and galleries and you think about curators and academia, and like our team really sits on the other side of that. And, you know, it can sometimes be a little bit of a battle, but in a fun way, to try and what I like to think of like translating how we speak to people and how to get people like through the doors, either, you know, virtually or physically. But yeah, it's a bit of a roundabout way to say that I'm really fortunate to do what I enjoy. I think I'm all right at it. Don't know. I mean, I'm not very good at selling myself, considering I'm a marketeer. And yeah, so I'm working in Leeds museums and galleries is mad because it's like it's the biggest local authority run service in the country now.
Really?
So yeah, and I think, you know, people always ask, they're like, oh, is that Royal Armouries? I'm like, no, it's not Royal Armouries, but they are our friends. But we do have like a massive amount of like culture in the city that's really concentrated, and I think people forget about it, or you take it for granted. I know I did. So yeah, that's how I kind of got into it, really.
I'm sorry to have to ask you what might be a difficult question, but do you have a particular favourite of the museums that you look at, or a particular exhibit or story that you like the best?
It's not actually a difficult question. I'm really open about this. I love Kirkstall Abbey. It's a weird one because I think when I first came to Leeds and I went to Kirkstall Abbey for the first time, I was totally blown away by the fact that I was like, there's this massive ruined abbey just outside of Leeds, like on a big main road, and it's free, and you can just wander around, and like, I don't know, it's just it just blew my mind that we had this on our doorstep. And as I've come to work with it, I've kind of just grown to love it more and more, because it's almost like this big lumbering, you know, I don't know, this big building. And what I love about it is it's an active part of our collection as well. So people always say like, oh, what's the biggest thing in Leeds museums and galleries? And I'm like, Kirkstall Abbey, straight away. You know, and it's really old, and it comes with all this mad history about, you know, how it wasn't ever supposed to be there, and when it arrived, you know, Leeds was this tiny little town, almost like a village size, and the monks moved from where they were supposed to be down here because there was better access. There's better access for trade and for their sheep to graze, and there was a nice river running through. And don't quote me on all of that because I am not an archaeologist. But it's still here, and people love it, and it's so important to like the local community of Kirkstall and sort of surrounding areas. And it's just an incredible sort of asset to have in Leeds when we have a lot of abbeys around. You know, we have Bolton and Revo and Fountains, and they're all a little bit further north, but Kirkstall kind of gets forgotten about. And I think partly probably because it's free, people don't value it the same way. So I always find that really interesting. But yeah, we also get funny, we had a really funny review about it. That someone complained that it wasn't quite finished and we needed to put the roof on, and you know, we made a bit of a joke back like, well, blame Henry VIII because he's the one that shut us down. You know, it's just it's an interesting one, but it never fails to kind of inspire me, and I just find it absolutely stunning. So it's
a beautiful place. I was going to mention my sister actually sent me that review.
Oh really?
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I'm hoping that it was tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Well, it always gives us a nice opportunity to go back and do a little potted history lesson, which everyone enjoys doing. So, no, it gave us all a laugh. So it was fun.
And they have some great events there as well. I've been to quite a few things. I can't remember how long ago it was. It was quite a long time ago, but they did a filming, like a live broadcast of Frankenstein, a modern version of it.
Yeah.
And me and my friend Katie got involved, and we had to go and learn a dance at the Phoenix Dance Theatre, which was amazing.
Wow. That's awesome. That's amazing.
It really was. And the front row of the audience was supposed to be for people who'd learned. It was to an Adele song. It was great. And the people at the front were supposed to be the people who'd learned. And my friend's quite strident, shall we say? She kept turning around and saying to people, "Did you learn the dance? Have you learned? Well, get back. Get back."
That's incredible. You know what? Fair play to her. You got to be invested, otherwise you don't be at the front. That's
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And what about exhibits? Have you got any particular item that you've come across that you are particularly interested in?
Oh, that's an interesting one. And I should have thought about this earlier. And I think, and this is a real cop-out answer, but whenever I have like a real luxury moment of being able to spend sort of half an hour with a curator, no matter what the subject matter is, they're so passionate about it. It really comes across, and you get immediately really excited about it. And it could be something like really... So my colleague Meg, who I do the podcast with, she loves a flint, like crusty old Saxon piece of stuff that sharpened things. I don't really know what it is, but she loves it and she found it really exciting. And I was like, I kind of just find it a bit boring. I don't really get it. And I love it because I get to take the mick out of it, because I know it's really important, and I know it's a key part of our history, and I know it's a brilliant thing to have in our collection. But I love the really quirky sort of social history stuff that we have. Like we'll have a load of like old board games that are just mad and a little bit politically incorrect, or we'll have like some incredible like textiles and fashion. And we've been recently looking at like almost, for want of a better phrase and pun, behind the seams. Never thought about before, but that's quite good. Of things that we find in pockets, and when items of clothing have been like made and remade, and tying it to present day as well. So I'm really interested in looking at how historical stuff, how we can make it relevant now, and actually what people were doing 200 years ago we're still doing today. We're just doing it slightly more efficiently, or we're probably ruining the climate, so yeah. Maybe we need to go back to those techniques. So yeah, there's a few things. And I have a soft spot for like our natural history collection, because it's animals, and who doesn't love animals? And we have some amazing like bugs and different types of moths and insects and creepy crawlies, which people aren't always that cool with, but you start to find out like the history behind them, and the fact that we're now using those like in scientific discoveries, because they're so prehistoric. They're telling us a lot about how we can change the way that we're doing things now, and learning from them. And I just think it's fascinating. So yeah, you go and speak to a curator, and they'll manage to change your opinion. They say they're not very good storytellers or marketeers, but they're the best ones. I mean, obviously they're going to hear this, so I've already outed myself.
And I know it's difficult to talk about because we're only just escaping from it and could possibly re-enter it, but the horrible nature that was the whole pandemic, how did museums and galleries cope with that? Did you have to find new ways to reach out to audiences?
Yeah, definitely. So it was a bit mad, and I think everyone's absolutely shattered across the board. And it was a real shift for us, and I mean for the rest of the sector as well. But we essentially went massively online. We converted all of our current sort of temporary exhibitions to virtual exhibitions, and it went down really well. And we created a whole section on our website called Virtual Visit, where we put up, it was, the exhibitions plus activities for kids and adults. And as we got more into the, horrible to say, but the swing of things, we started doing more video work and more live sessions and workshops for people. And we were so learning along the way. We'd never had to do anything like that before. Our website was pretty new. It was only just over a year old, and our team had never had to create content on like that scale. So it was a massive challenge, and that, you know, it worked out really well, and we were really grateful for sort of the support and the feedback. And I think what was really challenging was going through these periods of opening and closure and opening and closure. I think we did it like 3 times or 4 times, and you know, it takes a massive toll on everybody's mental, physical well-being, and Christ, the amount of signs we had to produce to, you know, and in the end you'd go around site and you'd have made all these signs, and people just ignore them anyway, and you're like, right, good, I'm so glad I spent all that time on that. But everyone kind of got into a rhythm with it, and ultimately, you know, we've come out the other side. We've been very, very fortunate because we are supported by Leeds City Council, and you know, majority is funded by the Arts Council as well. Obviously, we had struggles in terms of from a financial point of view, and we had a lot of our staff that were redeployed to different areas of the council, sort of frontline areas. So it was really interesting, and trying to balance who was what doing where, how, was sometimes it just meant that everything took a bit longer, but that wasn't such a bad thing because it gave us a chance to sort of sit back and think, are we doing the right thing for the right people? And as much as our team were sort of focused on the digital side, you know, we were really conscious that there was a load of people out there that didn't have access to online or computers, that maybe, you know, English wasn't their first language. Leeds is quite a cultural melting pot. So we didn't want to lose those connections, and massive props to our community team who did such an incredible job keeping in touch with all of those local groups that, you know, really they form part of the core of what we do, and we are for Leeds and for the community. And without those groups, you know, we wouldn't have the service that we do. So keeping in touch with them was massively important, and it just shifted our perceptions on how to do things and what we were doing things for.
And do you think that in some ways, I know obviously there's the whole IT shortage side of things, but also, do you think that in some ways it helped be more accessible to some people because they can go on and like you said, do a virtual tour?
Definitely. It was really good for us because it's something that we'd been kind of moving towards anyway. And we'd probably never, I mean, you know, ignorantly so, never considered the angle of access as much as we thought, well, it's just a really good thing to do. And, you know, doing things off our own back through our own digital channels was essentially free or really cheap as opposed to traditional marketing. And actually the access element of it has become bigger than all of that. And now we're going back into a period of becoming a little bit more sort of tangible in real life stuff. We don't want that to go away, so we're really trying to figure out the best ways to continue to sort of live stream events, make sure everything's got closed captions on it so it's accessible for people, because most people, I don't know about you, but if I want to like sneaky little scroll through, the worst thing in the world is when the sound comes on and you don't expect it and you're like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, I'm watching another video about dogs. But yeah, so it's trying to get a balance right, because people's workloads shifted and now they're back on site. You know, there's a lot of on-site logistic things that come first and foremost, but it's trying to make sure that we don't lose all of that great sort of stuff that we did over that time period, all of those skills that we learn and our colleagues learn, and making sure that people that can't visit or don't want to visit or live, you know, on the other side of the pond, which is incredible that we managed to reach those people. They can still get involved with stuff, which is really nice. So definitely we don't want to, as much as I say, like, you know, we're for our local community first and foremost, we don't want to alienate those people that have come along for the ride in the past year.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. And now things have opened up. Have you got exciting plans for the future, for the summer?
Summer's a real funny one because we were basically waiting on that 19th of July, yay or nay. But by that time we kind of had to already have planned in, so we kept it really pared back. And we've really, our main thing, and for me as well, like, you know, obviously try to think of all our audiences, but I'm like, well, how do I feel about it as well? Because I love going to museums and galleries, but I'm still a little bit nervous and unsure about going to places where it might potentially be really busy.
Yeah.
So we've not gone massive on sort of events or anything like that, because we don't want to scare people. We don't, it's a catch-22. I know there's a lot of people that are really keen to be going back out there, but also, the companies that we sometimes work with, they're nervous. They've got members of staff to consider, and they're also thinking, well, if people don't turn up and we lose a load of money on this, we can't physically afford to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to build those back relationships up and also build a bit of confidence back in people. So we've got a few sort of lovely trails on throughout pretty much all of our sites, which is a nice reintroduction back to all of the different sort of attractions that we have. And then we have, come September, we'll have a new sort of the first new temporary exhibition to launch at Leeds City Museum, which is very well timed because it's our 200th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Of Leeds Museums and Galleries, which is a complex thing to think about, because obviously, you've got Kirkstall Abbey that's 860 years old, and Lotherton was 50 last year, and then we say we're 200. It's a mixed message, I get that. But it's essentially when sort of the Literary Philosophical Society created Leeds Museums and Galleries as a whole, and where it was like day dot, yes, we're going to create a museum service.
Yeah.
So that's really looking back at where we've come from and where we're going, and it's been heavily co-curated with lots of volunteers and local community members. So they've picked out objects and stories that mean something to them. And it goes through a series of themes which have remained relevant throughout that time scale as well. So that's a really good one to look forward to. And then the other one that I would highlight was probably, it's at City Museum again, but I am biased because it's one of my sites, is a display by a photographer called Ed Hall, and he specialises in macro photography. So that's like super, super, super zoomed in, really high detail. And it's of a selection of different insects, some of which are in our collection and some of which are Ed's because he loves them. But it's on the back of a project called Dead Inspiring, which is around getting young girls and women into science.
All right.
And it's focusing on our entomology, or insect for regular people, collection, and trying to figure out sort of different ways that we can encourage people, girls and women that don't necessarily see science as an academic or a career path for them to get into, how they can start getting involved and making a difference in fields that they may not have thought about before. So it's a real in-depth look at some bugs, with some activities and crafts and things to go alongside that. And that's in the big Broderick Hall, so like the beautiful main space in City Museum.
Yeah.
With some really, really big high-res photography in there, and some nice videos as well. So it's worth a little look, and that'll open in a week's time, which might not be relevant for this. So let's say August.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That sounds fantastic. And it's great that you've got something to get your teeth into. And like you say, not to go sort of all in straight away when everybody's a little bit cautious still.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important to us that everyone that comes back feels safe and welcome, and that they want to be here, because for a lot of people it formed part of their routine, especially a lot of our free sites. It would be a weekly, if not a daily occurrence, that they'd pop in just for a chat. They might not even have a wander around, but our visitor assistants do an incredible job of just standing and speaking to people, and that means so much for people that may not have access to a support network or have any other place to go, or sort of groups to go to. So having that back is just like an absolute joy, and the feedback we've had has been incredible from that side. So front of house teams have done a smashing job as always.
Brilliant, that's great. And Sarah, you said that you started off life in Nottingham, but how long have you been in Leeds?
I have been in Leeds about 14 years.
So you're definitely qualified to answer the 3 questions that I ask every guest. The first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
I think I've probably laboured this point a bit, but for me, it's the people. So the reason that I came and have stayed is because I've just always felt Leeds was like a part of me and a bit of home. And, I don't have a Leeds accent, but I can do it if I try really hard. And I've just always felt that there's such a huge amount of really passionate and really diverse people and backgrounds and stories. And, Leeds works really hard to try and sort of highlight those people, and I think that we could do it better, but I also think that there's so many opportunities for people coming up here who they come to university, and I'm not shy to say it, I really struggled with university in my first year. I was like, I don't know if this is for me, but I really wanted to stay in Leeds. And if that's you and you're going through the same things, then go and find a part-time job or do some volunteering, because that's what really helped me, and I've really felt like I was part of something bigger and I could do something here. So definitely it's the people and place. It's just such a vibrant space to be in.
And if you had to choose something, I know it's difficult, but if you had to,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is something that's not so great about the city?
Well, I've listened back to some of your podcast episodes and everyone stole my answer, so I'm not going to say the buses, even though everyone hates the buses. I actually think one of the things that we're not very good about is shouting about ourselves. It's interesting because a few years ago, way back when, before Brexit, we were looking at being the city of culture for Europe, and I sat in this meeting and I remember making a big joke because we were sat around this table with a load of other cultural people and hospitality in various different industries, and I said, wouldn't it be really funny if Brexit happened and we didn't get this funding and it didn't go ahead? Well, it wasn't funny, but it happened nonetheless, and we're still doing 2023. It's not something I'm involved in, but we're not very good at shouting about it. And I remember working with this guy and him saying, Leeds has a bigger cultural programme than Edinburgh, but we don't know about it. No one shouts about it well enough. And I think that's half our problem. We're so excited about doing things that so many people get so involved in what they're doing, they forget to tell people about it. So I'd say that we need to probably shout a bit louder, if anything.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast, because
I've
always
it's
telling
incredible.
people about all of the amazing things happening in Leeds, and then thought, well, if I make a podcast, at least people will be able to choose whether they listen to me or not.
No, it's been super inspiring for me because there's so many people on this podcast that I didn't know existed, or I knew their organisation. I'm like, oh, we should work with them. So it's actually been great for my contact list. So thank you, Hazel.
Oh, no worries, thank you. And if somebody had lived in Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you think is a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Yeah, so I'm going to cheat on this one because I can, but I'm going to pick Thwaite Watermill, which is one of the Leeds Museum Gallery sites, and everyone were like, oh God. But I didn't know about it, and I'd lived here 10 years before I started working for Leeds Museums and Galleries. I hadn't heard about it. It's in the south of Leeds, and it's an old watermill with a little museum attached to it, and it's on its own island, which I think is incredible because Leeds is the most landlocked place. And everyone, I swear, the only thing that everyone was excited about during the whole COVID thing was going to the seaside. But Thwaite's on this tiny little island, and it's beautiful, and it has this beautiful wildflower garden, and it's great for kids, but it's also just a stunning place to have a quiet little wander, and you can walk to it down the canal as well from sort of the docks, so it's quite accessible. But yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, as I say, I'm biased, but it is a properly hidden gem.
It really is. I did visit a couple of years ago, and like you say, I think I used to work at a primary school, so we used to send children there sometimes, but I had never been myself. But yeah, I went, and it's just gorgeous. They've got the little cottage with all the rooms done out in the sort of period styles, the big water wheel. And then also when I was there was a really lovely cat that kept cropping up every couple of minutes as we sort of walking around the wildflowers and things, and that was lovely.
Yeah. No, I think there is still a cat there. Might not be the same cat. I can't quote on that, but yeah, it does. And there's always like a narrowboat or two popped up, and they'll always have a chat, and it's just really nice because it feels like a proper Leeds sort of thing. So it's a real taste of Leeds, I think.
Definitely. And so I asked you, Sarah, if there's a song that you would like to feature. Can you tell me what the song is, who it's by, and why you chose it?
Yes. So the song's called Cool Down, and it's by Issac Saierre, who's he's Leeds-based artist. I think he's in Huddersfield, but the song is part of a new album actually that he's just released, and it's beautifully summery and upbeat and fun and just nice and relaxed as well. And I think if you liked, for me, this is showing my age now, if you liked like Usher and sort of that R&B style, but also a bit of like Childish Gambino, those two vibes, that kind of feels like that for me. And it's just I was listening to it on repeat and then telling everybody else to listen to it. So yeah.
I can't wait to hear it, because you've just hit all my boxes for the kind of things I like. So that sounds brilliant. And what will you be doing with the rest of your day today, Sarah?
Well, I'm actually going into Leeds later on to go to the museum to do a bit of a walk around for the Bugs exhibition, to have a look at how we're going to lay that out and our interpretation and things. And then I'm also doing a very thrilling signage walk around, just on the back of our COVID stuff, but also we're doing we've done a rebrand in there. So I'm going to put some shiny new signs up, which is nice. And I'm also going to one of my other favourite places in Leeds. I have a membership at the Leeds Library.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah, so I don't get to go as often as I would like because I'm now based at home, which is in Otley. So I don't get to go as often as I would, but I do go in for a little look and always make sure that there's a few books on reserve so I can top myself up each time.
Brilliant. That sounds like a great afternoon. Well, thank you so very much for coming along to speak to me. I will put lots of links in the podcast notes so people can find out about the various museums and what you're up to.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much, Hazel. It's been a joy.
I had a great time chatting to Sara Merritt. It was brilliant to hear about all of the great things they've got going on at Leeds Museums and Galleries. Please do check out the podcast. I will put links in the notes. She has featured the song Cool Down by Issac Saierre. It is exactly how she described it. It's brilliant. I think it's going to be a great summer track. Go and check out the rest of his work. And again, I'll put links in the notes that you can follow that. Enjoy yourself, Leeds. Have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Light on Leeds, what's happening in this great city? Light on Leeds, we'll tell you. But wait a minute. Light on Leeds. Light on Leeds.
You just need to cool down, hey. Come into my room all heated, baby, cool down, hey, hey. If you really need a boy like me, 'cause I do it better than him. Ain't nobody got you like me. Cool down, hey, hey. Step into my life, oh, you're mad again. I see it in your eyes, tell me what he said. Tell me what he said that made you go from cool to seeing red. 'Cause now you're sitting in my bed like, contemplating if you wanna stay the night. I'm pretty sure you said we're friends, right? But what if we don't act like friends tonight? I could help you calm down if you just put your arms around. You can stay when you're done, 'cause I know I'm not the one, but I'm still your number one. You just need to cool down, hey. Come into my room all heated, baby, cool down, hey, hey. You really need a boy like me, 'cause I do it better than him. Ain't nobody got you like me. Cool down, hey, I've been hiding, I've been low, staring at the pile of clothes. We just did a bad thing though, it was comfortable. You call me your sunshine boy, I'm the breeze without the noise. I'm everything that you want, but I don't get none of your love. Why am I the one that you run into whenever he starts to get mad at you? When the spark goes away between you two, then you're coming through. What am I meant to do? What am I meant to do? I'll try to keep it cool, you'll be back soon. You just need to cool down.